so let me say a few words about that. My task was to determine whether the president retained or disclosed national defense information willfully. That means knowingly and with the intent to do something the law forbids. I could not make that determination without assessing the president's state of mind. For that reason, I had to consider the president's memory and overall mental state and how a jury likely would perceive his memory and mental state in a criminal trial. These are the types of issues that prosecutors analyze every day. And because these issues were important to my ultimate decision, I had to include a discussion of them in my report to the Attorney General. The evidence and the president himself put his memory squarely at issue. We interviewed the president and asked him about his recorded statement. Quote, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs," end quote. He told us that he didn't remember saying that to his ghostwriter. He also said he didn't remember finding any classified material in his home after his vice presidency. And he didn't remember anything about how classified documents about Afghanistan made their way into his garage. My assessment in the report about the relevance of the president's memory was necessary and accurate and fair.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so as you can see, we're drudging up some old information here, right? Y'all remember that intro clip? That was Robert Hur, and he was testifying to Congress about his interview with Biden about his classified documents nonsense. Well, guess what, folks? We finally got that audio. It took freaking forever to get that audio, and we finally realized why the Biden administration was stonewalling us. And I've got that audio clip for you guys. But you know what? I kind of wanted to drudge this up, and I had to go back and review some of my old videos and see exactly what I was talking about back then. You know, denying of oversight and all that good stuff, right? I was trying to explain everything. You know, I did pull this clip from one of the best political pundits in America. Check this out, y'all. DOJ rebuffs GOP's second demand for Biden-Hur audio recordings. Just outright insanity. We've already went over this once, right? Like, they already denied it. Said, oh, no, we gave you that information. We've been extraordinarily transparent, right? Giving them redacted audio, redacted transcripts. Everything was redacted. And then saying at the same time, oh, yeah, we've been transparent. No, you haven't been transparent. Is a redacted transcript transparency? No, it's not. You're covering stuff up. That is not transparent, by the way. But the Biden administration really doesn't care. And it really pisses me off because the government, the Congress is supposed to have oversight over all these things. That is the purpose of checks and balances, right? Without balances or without checks, you don't have balance. And your government can't function like it's supposed to, right? That's why we have three branches, for God's sakes. We have a people's house that is supposed to have the people, the citizens, are supposed to be in charge of that body, right? And that body is supposed to be in charge of the executive branch that is supposed to be in charge of the legislation from the people's body, right? So it's a circle. It's circular oversight, essentially, right? Like, we know Congress makes the laws, the executive branch enforces those laws, and the Supreme Court adjudicates between the two. Yeah, so as we remember, well, man, I go back and I look at those old clips from some of my old videos, and I'm just like, wow, I've come so far. I've come a long ways. I mean, you guys might not see the difference. I don't know. Hopefully you can see the difference because, yeah, I can see the difference. There's a vast difference in my delivery and everything. I'm a lot more animated. I try to engage a lot more. I can speak a whole hell of a lot better than I used to be able to speak, for goodness sakes. But we go back and we look at all that, right? Like Robert Hur said, you know, Biden, yeah, he shouldn't be charged. We had the major contradiction that, oh, his memory is too poor. A jury would never convict him, but yet he's still able to run the country. Huh? This is utter nonsense. And then the DOJ constantly denying the oversight committee wanting that audio file. They're giving out a freaking redacted transcript as if that's going to be sufficient for us to do our oversight duties as the people's government, as the people's representatives should be able to do. They should be allowed to look over that audio. For goodness sakes, there was an impeachment investigation going on, and that was key evidence. Biden's mental capacity. Check this out.
So during this time we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center, Biden, or the cancer failure shot, or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. So if I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2015. 2015 he died?
2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months or but I think that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
Trump gets elected in November of 2017?
2016.
2016. All right. So, why did I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Yeah, okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in then.
Right.
January.
Right, correct.
Okay, yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and
So he couldn't remember when his son died. He couldn't remember when he came out of the Senate. He couldn't remember when Trump got elected. He couldn't remember that he came out of office as vice president. He was thinking that his son died in 2017. He couldn't remember that he had classified documents to begin with. That's why they were found in the first place. Couldn't remember that he shared classified information with his ghostwriter, for goodness sakes. This is why they didn't want those tapes released. And I think every single one of those administration officials in the DOJ should be fired. At minimal. Criminally investigated at the most. Right now, I know people are screaming, blah, 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 blah. Retribution. Who cares, folks? Right? Once again, if the laws in this country are not applied equally, we do not live in a free country, folks. That is key. It's foundational to the existence of our nation. If our laws are not applied equally, and currently they are not, folks, when you can go to the Capitol, the people's house, just like people did on January 6th, and be peacefully protesting and get arrested and thrown in prison for that. That is an unspeakable injustice. When people like Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton can abuse classified information, actively impede federal investigations into investigating their own corruption, and nothing happens, folks. Our society cannot function this way. Our country, our government system cannot function this way. You're going to alienate half of the country who sees this information and is like, are these people just above the law? Like, we constantly hear nobody is above the law from both sides.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one's above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No man is above the law.
He has to be held accountable. He's not above the law.
No one's above the law. Either that nor any other title puts you above the rule of law.
No one is truly above the law.
That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what it means to not have a king.
They're not above the law. Nobody is above the law.
Everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as, equally.
Well, that no one is above the law, which is foundational.
No one is above the law, even a former president.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
No one is above the law.
The law is the law, and no one should be above it.
Yes, nobody is above the law. No one is above the law.
No one else is above the law, including a president.
Nobody is above the law. You can't have two justice systems in America. It has to be one justice system. And anybody who breaks the law should be held accountable.
And that no one is above the law.
No one is above the law, and our president is not above the law.
I always thought that this country, that no one was above the law, especially the president.
But yet both sides break the law, and one side refuses to enforce those laws. Bet you never guess who that one side is. I'll tell you, it's the Republicans. They are scared of the left. They are scared of the corporate press, because if they go after people who actually broke the law, like Joe Biden, like Hillary Clinton, like John Brennan, all these people, go after these former cabinet members and executives that worked in the Biden administration, some in the Trump administration, in the Obama administration. They fear that, oh, hang on, the corporate press is going to say this is Trump's retribution, and these people are scared of that retribution. For goodness sakes, our government cannot function this way, folks. We need justice when it comes to issues like this. It has to be done. Just outright has to be done. This should have been a prosecutor's dream. You have, all the evidence in the world that you could ever want. As a matter of fact, he turned in the evidence himself, right? So you have all the evidence. Then you have these audio tapes of Joe Biden actually talking to his ghostwriter, telling him that this is classified documents, y'all. And I could get in trouble for telling you about this. Got that on audio tape. So we got a smoking gun, and then we have a photo of the crime scene as he was doing it. And Robert Hur refuses to prosecute because he's a doddering old man. Well, when it comes to the people's government, Congress, if you will, we have oversight over these things. But, as Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, the Biden administration, has proven that they don't care about the Constitution whatsoever. They don't care about the people's government. They don't care about you. They don't care about your voice at all, because when they deny oversight, that is a slap in the face to every single American who votes for their congressmen and women. This case was an easy open and shut case. But I speculated back then, why did Joe Biden come out and announce to the world that he had classified documents? That never made any sense to me, because at the time he was president of the United States, he could have just declassified all that stuff, kept it on the hush-hush, and nobody would have said a word. We would have never got any of this. Joe Biden was so self-defeating that he exposed his own corruption in defeating himself, for goodness sakes, right? And I say that because, like I was saying, he didn't have to do that. He could have just declassified all that stuff, not told a single soul about any of this, kept it on the hush-hush, and hey, there's no problem there, right? But hang on just a second. Why did he expose all of this? Because Donald Trump was being persecuted at the time for the exact same thing. And what did Joe Biden want to do? Or what did his cabinet want to do? Whoever was surrounding him, his advisors, what did they want to do? They wanted to make it look like, oh, these laws are being applied equally. And in doing so, they exposed themselves as corrupt as hell. They wanted to make it look like Joe Biden turned in his classified documents, which they didn't think a couple of steps beyond that. Why did Joe Biden have classified documents in the first place? Before, like when he gained those classified documents, he didn't have any right to keep those classified documents. Trump, on the other hand, did. He was the president. He said he declassified those documents. We will absolutely never know that, folks. We will never know if they were officially declassified. Right? That's just not going to happen. Sorry, that's just not how it is. But they were ignoring that fact. Like, anybody that looked into this was like, this is an open and shut case right here. You've got Biden admitting to doing it on tape. You got him admitting to sharing classified documents with his ghostwriter. Yeah, sure, he turned it in. But hang on. When we have a murder suspect that shows up to a police department with the murder weapon and turns it in, do they just say, well, you know, even still, let's make an even closer to apples comparison. If we got a murder suspect that from a 40-year-old murder that shows up, he's an old man, right? Poor memory, doddering old man, sweet guy. He's just the neighbor. He's Jim from next door. Shows up with the murder weapon. Says, I did it. I'm sorry. Well, hang on. He's an old man. Do you think they're not going to prosecute anyway? Do you think that the prosecutors are just going to be like, well, a jury probably won't convict him because he's just a doddering old man with a poor memory? They're not going to convict him. He's a nice guy. Do you think that's going to happen, folks? No, of course not. That is not a prosecutor's job. That is absolutely, the prosecutor's job is to bring the case. That's it. You bring the case, let a jury decide. You don't think on behalf of some made-up jury that doesn't even exist yet and say, oh, well, they're not going to prosecute. I'm sorry. It's just not how that works. I know Joe Biden was the president at the time, right? Doesn't really matter to me. It was just the process. Exposed the corruption, for goodness sakes. The process exposed the corruption, and I think that's an injustice, right? You could definitely go after Joe Biden for that now because, once again, those actions were taken before he was president, so presidential immunity does not play a role in this. It absolutely does not. But will we ever get justice for that? No, probably not. I mean, we finally got justice for Donald Trump. They finally dropped all that nonsense. They knew it was nonsense in the first place. But we got those audio files, and I just wanted to bring you guys that and speak a little bit about this and drudge up some of my old clips just to see how much better I've gotten. Man, I used to be cringe. I'm not going to lie about that, y'all. I used to be really cringe. But, hey, it is what it is. We get better, and we get better. That's all I'm going to say about that. But y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That would be lovely if you could do that. And also, if you want to be more involved, if you want to push back against the corporate press narrative, against these injustices, right? If you want to make sure that laws are being applied equally all the way across the board, if you believe that you do live in a free nation, do me a favor and sign up. Click that join button. Become a member, so we can move forward with society and exposing the corporate press for the rot that it has become, the narrative building, if you will, that it has become. But y'all do that. Sign up, become a member, share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That is probably the single best way to help me out. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.